Dr. Robert Redfield was totally misquoted in the media on a statement about the fall season and the virus. Totally misquoted.
You were accurately quoted, correct?
I'm accurately quoted in the Washington Post.
And
Making sure
Doctor,
you're
wouldn't you say
protected.
there's a good chance that COVID will not come back?
We don't
And
know.
if it comes back, it's in a very small, confined area that we put out.
Well, the great thing is we'll be able to find it earlier this time.
And it might not come back at all, Jeff. It may not come back at all. He's talking about a worst-case scenario where you have a big flu and you have some corona. But it's all possible. It's also possible it doesn't come back at all.
Eddie, God, he just can't stop. Can't stop lying. Can't stop denying reality. It is almost an extension from the sentence he started at the very beginning when he said we've got 15 cases and soon we'll be down to 0. I wonder what a serious look back at the White House coronavirus policy would reveal if we had more than just these asinine public statements.
Well, it would reveal that they're responsible for all of these folks who are dead. Can you imagine folks who've lost their nana? Folks who've lost their husbands and wives and brothers and sisters, people you read about every day, watching that? Can you imagine those folks who haven't been able to sit Shiva, who haven't been able to have the proper homegoing, to celebrate a life, who had to say goodbye through a damn phone, watching that? Right? Do you have a kind of callousness and indecency, Nicole, that reflects something rotten at the core? And it seems to me that we could talk about the politics, but the moral outrage, the indecency of it all, right, is an indictment on these people. I mean, that's an encapsulation of the last 4 years. The man has been lying through his teeth since he took the oath of office.
As the AP's Jonathan Lemire put it,
December and January and February are going to be rough times. I actually believe they're going to be the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation. We're in that range potentially now of starting to see 1,500 to 2,000 to 2,500 deaths a day from this virus. So, yeah, the mortality concerns are real. And I do think, unfortunately, before we see February, we could be close to 450,000 Americans have died from this virus.
This may be the most important speech I've ever made. I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place.
as the AP's Jonathan Lemire put it, the president has abandoned his post, delivering a long and rambling speech filled with lies and falsehoods about the 2020 election, instead of focusing on what's right in front of us, on what the CDC director says will be the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation. Look at the number on the screen, the amount of people who died, and so many of them did not have to.
And of course, Donald and Jonathan in the fall.
Exactly where they said we'd be.
We've been warning Americans since the spring to get ready for the fall. Scott Gottlieb has been warning Americans since the early spring to get ready for the fall. Dr. Fauci has been warning since spring to get ready for the fall. Everybody has said it's going to be the worst time ever. And what does the President of the United States do in April? He lies again through his teeth to the American people. He lies to members of his cult. He lies to people who believe his continued steady stream of lies, his fire hose of falsehoods, instead of just listening to basic science and medicine. Look at this clip.
Dr. Robert Redfield was totally misquoted in the media on a statement about the fall season and the virus. totally misquoted.
You were accurately quoted, correct?
I'm accurately quoted in the Washington Post.
What Dr. Redfield clearly was asking for, just like we ask for every American to follow the guidelines, he's saying, please add to that guidelines getting your flu shot and making sure you're protected.
There's a good chance that COVID will not come back.
We don't
And
know.
if it comes back, it's in a very small, confined area that we put out.
Well, the great thing is we'll be able to find it earlier this time.
And it might not come back at all, Jeff. It may not come back at all. He's talking about a worst-case scenario where you have a big flu and you have some corona. But it's all possible. It's also possible it doesn't come back at all.
We will have coronavirus in the fall. I am convinced of that. There will be coronavirus in the fall.
And of course, Donald Trump then went behind him and said he disagreed. So here you have Redfield running the CDC, telling the Washington Post that get ready because it's coming in the fall. The President of the United States attacks him for telling the truth. This is the Trump administration in a nice little neat capsule. President lying through his teeth to members of his cult that are stupid enough to believe that he actually cares about them and cares about more than the stock market, and actually is telling the truth about it not coming back in the fall. Because if you believe Donald Trump, a politician who's been lying through the entire presidency more than you believe doctors and medical officials, then yes, you're a member of a cult and you need to get help. But in these clips, Jonathan Lemire, you have the head of the CDC and you have Dr. Fauci warning Americans. It's coming back in the fall. It's going to be worse. Get ready. And you have Donald Trump lying once again about this pandemic, saying it's not going to come back. And here we are breaking new records every day. And it looks like we're getting into a position where we could have a 9/11 every single day.
From the first moments of this pandemic, Joe, the president has misrepresented and outright lied to the American public about the dangers of this virus, saying that it would be gone by Easter, ignoring the advice of his health experts, deliberately contradicting them time after time. Redfield warning about the dangers of the fall, not just in an interview to the Washington Post, but also in testimony, appearing before Congress. And the president, on a day that I was there in the White House, appeared in the briefing room hours later and utterly undermined that message. We had the president night after night at campaign rallies across the country saying the nation was rounding the corner on the virus, that it was all but over, that the pandemic was in the nation's rear view mirror. Mind you, he says this into crowds packed, thousands of people, most not wearing masks, none of them socially distant. And we know that there have been outbreaks of the virus directly linked to some of the president's campaign events. And now, as this pandemic has hit its highest point, as states across the nation are grappling with this and hospitals are running out of beds, and we have, as you said, almost a 9/11 type death toll every single day, the president is nowhere to be found. He has abandoned his post as leader of the nation in the worst health crisis we have seen in a century. There are messages that his own government is putting out, warnings about how bad this could be. The president is not amplifying them. The president is not using the bully pulpit. The president is not using the Oval Office to suggest that to warn the American people that this is what's coming. In fact, what he did instead was appear behind the presidential seal yesterday and speak for 46 minutes of dangerous conspiracy theories and baseless accusations about an election that he lost. Talk that has alarmed election officials across the country that fear for their own safety, fear that he's inspiring violence. Talk that is undermining, in the minds of some Americans, the legitimacy of Joe Biden's election. A speech that he had to put out on, mind you, taxpayer-funded video and released on social media because no network would carry it because of the number of falsehoods that it contained. That's the president's message. Today, he has two more events, one of which he's giving a medal to Lou Holtz. Another one, signing an executive order. Will he appear before cameras for either? No, because he doesn't want to take questions from the media about his baseless claims about the election, nor the surge in the pandemic. The president is not leading. He's just consumed with conspiracy theories, and there's no one around him who's able to get him to change course.
You're right.
This is Olbermann versus Trump, and I'm not Trump. Prosecute them all. 3 weeks after the election, the candidate who got the most votes against him in U.S. history continues to hold our nation hostage. This will end with him defeated, and not democracy defeated. He will segue into a 2024 race for the White House. He will never admit he lost. He will always insist it was stolen from him. It will become the only campaign plank of the Republican Party, and Joe Biden will be inaugurated safely on January 20th. And that's when the hard part begins. Prosecute them all. Our democracy will emerge from the black hole that is Donald Trump, but it will not emerge intact. And thus, while I admire, indeed I love President-elect Biden, as he hints that he wants the nation to heal and does not want his presidency obscured by prosecutions of the criminal presidency that will have preceded it, he is entirely and potentially disastrously mistaken. Trump must be prosecuted. Barr must be prosecuted. Stephen Miller must be prosecuted. Pence and the other COVID-19 deniers must be prosecuted. Lindsey Graham must be prosecuted for trying to defraud the voters of Georgia. Giuliani should be disbarred and prosecuted. Sidney Powell should be disbarred and prosecuted. Jenna Ellis, Lynn Wood, all of them. Those who swore false witness in the Trump voter fraud affidavits must be prosecuted. The Michigan House Speaker Chatfield, who drank champagne at the Trump Hotel on a Friday night and then on a Monday threatened a constitutional crisis if Biden's win was certified, he must be prosecuted. And the fiends at the border camps, from the ICE executives to the clerks who caged the kids and expelled their parents, must be prosecuted. If we should have learned one thing from Trump, it is that this is not entirely a nation of laws. It is a nation of traditions. Representative government in this country is not only not sacrosanct, it is full of self-destruct buttons that did not detonate, this time, more thanks to luck than thanks to skill. As I have always believed and stated, the preservation of democracy is less the result of those of us who have fought and strived to protect it, and more the result of the stupidity and carelessness of the morons who wish to destroy it. In short, the next Donald Trump will not be nearly as stupid as this Donald Trump, just as the next George W. Bush turned out to be not nearly as self-controlled as the real George W. Bush was. Trump does us a favor whenever he mindlessly honks and boasts about his 73 million votes. He serves to remind us that there are 73 million Americans who are fascists or racists or both, or who have no problems with fascists or racists or both. There are 1,000 things we must do to fix the leaks that so obviously sprung in our democracy, which nearly drowned us all, but they will not be fixed in 4 years. The spectacle of local, overt, racist ballot certifiers in the suburbs of Detroit having the power to overthrow the duly elected government of the United States will still be there for the election of 2024. The tyranny of the minority via the Electoral College will still be there for the election of 2024. The ingredients of this coup attempt will still be there for the election of 2024. And God knows the scumbags who support Donald Trump, who either believe this delusion of him as martyred victim or pretend to believe it to cover their own racist or fascist motives, they will still be here for the election of 2024. There is only one short-term solution when there is a decent and honest president who may not control the Senate and who barely controls the House, and who faces a supermajority full of Bible-thumping political toadies on the Supreme Court. The people who did this to our democracy in 2020 must face the imminent prospect of going to prison for how they assailed freedom these last 5 years. And they and those who supported them must live the rest of their lives in abject fear of going to prison if they try it again. I am all for healing. First, we disarm the fascist bombs. Then we arrest the fascist terrorists. Then we do whatever we can to dismantle the fascist apparatus, and then we heal. To try to cut directly to the last step, to leave all the weapons of fascism open to the fascists, is not only to invite them to do it again in 4 years, or 4 months, or 4 weeks, but to also reassure them that whatever laws they break next time, they will not face the consequences because they are not facing the consequences this time. There are laws in this country. There are laws against attempting to overthrow the government of the United States of America, whether by violence or fraud. In the months before Barack Obama became president of the United States, it was clear that his predecessor, Mr. Bush, was fully informed beforehand of the decision to torture prisoners in American hands. On the record, Bush said he asked what tools were available. On the record, he said he asked if those tools were legal. On the record, he said he knew the tools were used. The tools included waterboarding. Unintentionally, Mr. Bush had confessed to war crimes and had provided direct evidence that those who planned and executed the waterboarding were also guilty of these war crimes, and nothing was done. Literally a month before Obama's inauguration, it was, of all people, the then Vice President-elect Biden who said, quote, "The questions of whether or not a criminal act has been committed or a very, very, very bad judgment has been engaged in is something the Justice Department decides." And at the Justice Department, the then Attorney General nominee Eric Holder added, "We don't want to criminalize policy differences that might exist between the outgoing administration and the administration that is about to take over." And that's where it died. And that's when Donald Trump first knew that if he ever became president someday, he could break any law he damn well pleased. God damn it, when the policy differences are between maintaining American democracy and substituting racist one-party rule, you're goddamned right that we want to criminalize policy differences that might exist between the outgoing administration and the administration that is about to take over. We not only want that, when it comes to an outgoing administration which is criminally guilty of trying to privatize the government, which is criminally negligent in the deaths of 250,000 Americans so far, and which is criminally liable for the current attempted coup, we also want as many members as possible of this corrupt, immoral, anti-democratic outgoing administration indicted, arrested, tried, and imprisoned. We want enough of them in there that they can hold reunions and birthday parties. We want the prisons so filled with Trumps and Trump flunkies and Trump apologists and Trump enablers that we have to convert Trump buildings into new goddamned Trump prisons. I am not trying to start some sort of reality-based, non-paranoid version of lock them up. I am trying to get the laws of this country enforced. If the Justice Department doesn't have a case, I'm not asking for what Trump asked for, evidence manufactured in other countries in some sort of quid pro quo. I'm not asking for vigilante justice. I'm not asking for jeering, mindless mobs to collectively grunt threats like a pack of gorillas. If grand juries won't indict, so be it. If juries won't convict, so be it. If appeals courts overturn, so be it. But illegal acts must have consequences, otherwise, simply, they cease to be illegal. If you cannot prosecute a former president when he broke the law, why would any future president not break the law? This president and his people have broken the law on an hourly basis. There are literally enough crimes to, at minimum, indict everybody ranging from Trump himself to the head of the government's equivalent of your office supplies manager, the General Services Administration. Do it! This is all these people understand. They clearly have no concept of democracy or the rules and traditions under which we have lived for 230 years or the differences between freedom and dictatorship. But they all, every goddamn one of them, have a fully formed, gigantic, hot and cold running grasp of self-interest. If you tell them you do not want your presidency to be overshadowed by prosecutions, the reptile brains in the human dirt that is Trump and his fellow travelers will relax, will analyze where the coup failed, and will refine what they can do to the rest of us next time. But if you appoint a special prosecutor or 400 special prosecutors and investigate every single person who worked for Donald Trump since January 20th, 2017, nearly all of them will sell out their boss to save their own worthless ass. President-elect Biden and those who believe in freedom and not authoritarianism in this country need time to board up the giant holes found in and blown through our form of government. And we can only get that time now by scaring the shit out of those who just tried to overturn an election, and those who pillaged our treasury and our freedoms for 4 years, and those other Republicans in the House, in the Senate, in the state houses, who aided and abetted their attempts to rob us blind and burn democracy to the ground. We like to look back at the Watergate scandal and how the system defended itself and justice prevailed and evil was vanquished and bullshit. I lived through it in real time. Watergate unraveled because its leaders were terrified of going to jail. There were moments of nobility and moments of public service and moments when every group of Americans, from journalists to security guards, helped save democracy. But in the eternal struggle between right and wrong, there is no noble intent, no dedication to public service, no personal moral force which is as powerful as the true, cold, cynical meaning of right and wrong in politics. To the members of this derelict, deranged Trump administration, this simple truth must be inescapable, and it must be written in front of them in letters 100 feet high. If doing wrong lands your ass in prison, but doing right means immunity or probation, suddenly, yea, verily, righteousness shall exalt a nation. Good night and good luck.
Donald, listen. Just listen. You know what's coming. You had to know.
We were getting ready
Your legacy?
for a big celebration.
Failure. It's over.
And all of a sudden it was just called off.
Your future? You failed. What future?
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will receive the most votes of any presidential ticket ever.
Ouch. No legacy. Lawsuits? Lawsuits. Massive debts? Bankruptcy? Bankruptcy. Humiliation? Humiliation. Melania might not even stick around. No one wants a loser. Your house of cards has collapsed. It's over. Everything you've put off. Total collapse. Everything you've wanted to hide. All your secrets. All your secrets. They're all going to come out. You can't stop it. You need to accept it.
And former Vice President Joe Biden will become the 46th President of the United States.
President Biden. It's over. You can't stop it. Biden won. He beat you. Crushed you. Accept it.
I'm the President of the United States. Don't ever talk to the President that way.
You can't tweet your way out of it.
400 tweets over the last 2 weeks are mostly false claims of fraud.
You can't sue your way out of it.
A dozen of these lawsuits unsuccessful.
Your lawyers are clowns, and your so-called allies won't save you. They were never going to.
Do you have anything to say to the press?
They won't save you. There's just one thing you could do to help yourself now. One small thing.
One thing.
Get off Twitter.
Get off Twitter.
Put down your phone, and for the love of God,
in the name of all that's holy,
shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are running to serve Georgia in the Senate. So you might think this ad is about Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Sure, they both received secret COVID briefings while their stockbrokers cashed in. Yeah, they both embrace the crazy conspiracy nuts. But Loeffler and Perdue aren't really on the ballot. No, Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are really running against Mitch McConnell. If Mitch elects his pet senators, it's 4 more years of what we just voted out. McConnell will block COVID relief for Georgians. stop Joe Biden from appointing qualified doctors and scientists to fight this pandemic. Loeffler and Perdue will vote with McConnell every time, no matter how much it hurts Georgia. No, you won't see McConnell's name on the ballot, but he's there.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content.
The man who stood behind this pulpit was opposed by the powerful and wealthy. He was called a communist, that he hated the police and his movement would destroy America. They attacked his personal life and distorted his policies. Sound familiar? It should. The hateful voices of old Georgia are back. They attacked Reverend King. Now they're attacking Reverend Warnock. It's disgusting. It's wrong. But with Mitch McConnell and Kelly Loeffler, it's no surprise. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The FBI calls QAnon domestic terrorists.
QAnon followers believe world governments are being controlled by a shadowy cabal of pedophiles.
The Bureau warns some of those conspiracy theories will likely motivate some domestic extremists to commit violent activity.
But what does Team Loeffler and Perdue call QAnon? Friends.
Kelly Loeffler got a polarizing endorsement from fellow Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Q is a patriot.
Greene is a racist conspiracy theorist.
Perdue and Loeffler have created enough chaos.
A QAnon supporter barricaded himself inside an armored vehicle. In 2016, a man shot up a Washington, D.C. restaurant.
11 killed, 6 wounded. People killed while worshiping.
Stop them before they make Georgia a safe haven for QAnon terrorists. Tell Loeffler and Perdue there is no Q in Georgia.
Our campaigns are working together.
Stop Team Q. Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.